The Samsung Galaxy A54 has been a solid Samsung device, bringing a Galaxy S23-like design at a solid price point, but the Poco F5 has been luring customers in with its incredibly fast performance at an even lower price point than the Galaxy A54. Samsung Galaxy A54 rocking the Exynos 1380 has not been the most pleasant experience. The Poco F5 is not the F5 Pro, it still has pretty solid performance, even giving you around 12 gigs of RAM versus the 6 or 8 on the A54. Well, let's find out how they actually perform here in comparison to each other. We'll begin with a boot up in 3, 2, go. And the reason for comparison is I know the CPUs are not directly comparable. One is faster than the other, but these phones are definitely one you might be considering over the other. Again, Poco is not really available widespread in the US market. This is a global model though, so it means you can pick it up, unlocked, and use it if you want. Whereas you'll be able to get the Galaxy A54 at pretty much all your local stores, even your local carriers. This is definitely going to be probably the more sold option. However, can the Galaxy A54 keep up with a phone like this? I don't think so. You're seeing right there, just on the boot up, it wasn't even close. And this is an area where I really want Samsung to improve the A-line is the speed. Like, you don't have to give us the highest end specs, but give us a fast processor. That would be definitely nice. I've been having so much fun, playing around with these mid-rangers this year. I'm going to be getting the Pixel 7a shortly. I've just got a few videos I wanted to make before that, but you can see right here, just when the A54 does first turn on, it takes a while to boot up, and even like getting things set up, it definitely does that. So like it'll take a second. Once it gets warmed up though, like turned on and stuff, it'll be good to go. But it has that in-display fingerprint sensor. But yeah, you see that like that animation delay was not quite there. That's mostly due to the CPU. It's not the fastest one out there. Now the Poco, on the other hand, does have a fingerprint built in on the side here. And look at that. In like nothing. Bang, just right in. So the Poco F5, I could tell you right out the gate, just unlocking it feels way faster than the Galaxy A54. Like, it's unbelievably faster. You wouldn't even think these phones are in the same price category, but they are. However, the A54 has the in-display fingerprint sensor, and you can see now that I gave it a few seconds, now it looks smoother than earlier when I was unlocking it. So from a biometric standpoint, the A54 is slower, but it has the more modern in-display fingerprint, whereas this uses hardware-based. But I like hardware-based as well because hardware-based fingerprint sensors are incredibly reliable as well. Now, discussing their general user interface performance, I've already gave you a little snippet of what the A54 is like. When you first turn it on, it is a little bit laggy, but at the same time, once it gets booted up, it pretty much performs like you would expect a Samsung phone to perform. It's pretty darn smooth, just generally operating through the system. Now you do have a 120 hertz display on here, right here, an adaptive refresh, which is 100% necessary because 60 hertz on here would not be very good. Overall though, when you're just generally operating through it, it's pretty darn good. Feels just like mostly other Samsung phones. No major issues there. Now, when going to the Poco F5 though, we have what I think feels even faster than some iPhones and some flagship Samsung phones. The MIUI 14 is kind of a lighter skin. They do throw their own, little apps in here, little themes and stuff, but it kind of feels like a Pixel-like experience with a few, changes. It's not a ton, and you can see right there, it does have this iOS-looking, quick panel up here, but the actual software, you can take off this categorization if you want, then it just kind of feels like vanilla Android. So I would say that the MIUI is closer to vanilla Android than the Samsung experience, which I think helps it feel smoother and snappier, but this one just feels far smoother and faster than the A54, generally scrolling through the operating system. Okay guys, so everything is closed out for both devices. Let's go ahead and see which one is quicker. We'll begin with calendar, and you can see that's faster on the right, not by a ton. We'll go into calculator, faster on the right. We'll go into clock, Again, faster on the right. Now, keep in mind that the Poco F5 Pro is running a CPU that is more competitive, I would say, with like an S23 and S23 Plus phones like that, which is, I don't know how they're doing it for this price point. Maybe because they're not selling quite as many as a Samsung device. But really, Samsung, if you're watching this video, I still think having a faster CPU, if you made this exact phone with just a faster CPU, I don't think that would cut into the sales of the premium devices. Reason why is because it still has a super AMOLED, not the dynamic AMOLED. It still has thicker bezels. It still has a plasticier feel. I know it's glass in the back, but it still feels cheaper than the premium phones. It doesn't have the best cameras like the premium phones. You could still sell this phone with a faster CPU than what we get on the, A54. So you can definitely see I'm a little bit disappointed that Samsung keeps throwing these slow CPUs in the A line. It's unnecessary at this point. The Pixel 7a is getting the G2, which performs closer to a flagship phone. We have Poco F5 series running like flagship phones in performance, still giving you a plasticky body, separating themselves from premium devices. And you've seen Twitter was faster on the right. We'll go into Groupon. That's faster on the Poco F5 Pro again. And usually when I do these tests, there's not a big difference. But in this one, I think there's enough of a difference between these two that this would really add up throughout the day. You're definitely going to notice. I mean, look at that. You've seen that chop just scrolling down. I mean, come on. Let's go to Best Buy. And these are on the latest software updates. You'll see that's faster again on the Poco F5. And this will make a real difference, I think, in day-to-day. It'll just feel much snappier using the phone on the right. And let's head up out of here. Let's go to Starbucks. What worries me a little bit is the update support for the Poco F5. I don't know how long that will be. I know the Samsung phone will be longer. But here's the thing about the Galaxy A54. Just because you have software updates that are regular, that's faster on the right. The A54 is never going to get faster or much faster just based on software alone because it just doesn't have the CPU. And I understand this phone is not targeted towards the customer that has, the fastest, performance needs. However, at the same time, other phones in the same price category are now starting to offer fast performance. So I just think Samsung needs to just do one thing on the A55, just upgrade the CPU to a fast CPU. It doesn't even have to be the highest end. It could be the Snapdragon 7 Plus Gen 2. It could be one of these non, highest end versions of the software. So that's just something I want to see on the next one. So let's go into Dead Trigger 2. Did I skip Starbucks? Let me see. I think I skipped. No, I didn't. Let's go into Dead Trigger 2 here. See which one is faster. And you'll see it's much faster again on the Poco F5. So gaming, regular apps, boot up, general operating system, you're seeing so far the A54 is no match for the Poco F5. And there you go. A massive difference. And I think if I'm not mistaken, I think the A54 actually costs more. So you must really love the Samsung ecosystem if you're willing to pay more for a slower device. Recognizable brand though, that is big. That definitely is big. It's kind of like the shoe game. Like you can go buy some shoes like that are cheaper, not quite as a recognizable brand, but still known. That would be the Poco F5. But people are still going to buy the Nikes because it's Nike. You know what I'm saying? Like something like that. So just stuff like that is like reasons why people would still buy the A54. And I'm not saying it's the worst phone out there, but when we compare it, we're doing a direct head-to-head here. We compare it to some of the competition in terms of, again, we're doing speed tests here. You've seen that right there. We're doing speed tests. We're talking performance in this test. It definitely cannot stack up to faster CPU phones. I mean, this is enough said. You've seen that right there. Enough said. And don't get me wrong. I don't want you to come away with, oh, this guy just hates the A54. No, I actually love the A54. I still recommend it for people who don't need a top-end performance. It gives you like an S23-like experience for essentially, much less money, which is pretty Pretty amazing. You can see the Poco F5 is already in. I'm waiting for the A54. Poco F5 is already in Call of Duty. So I actually think the performance is not so much slower, but slower enough that you might actually lose in a match here in Call of Duty just because your CPU and your game is not as fast. The person over here will probably hit you before you're able to hit them and get that W because the speed is faster on this phone. Let's go into Geekbench 6. And I know you can say, well, it's probably the internet more that matters. That is going to play into it, of course, but the Poco F5 still has the faster CPU. So if you have any type of chop or delay, that's a miss right there for you. And that's a W for the Poco F5 user. So gamers, this is the one. Let's go into 3D Mark. See faster again on the right. And KineMaster, whatever you want to call it. Of course, these are going to do ads. We're going to go into the application. And even the ad popped up first on the right. We'll go into video. And you could see pretty similar here, mix. That was faster on the left. Let's go home. Overall, pretty good. So I would say the A54 is not a bad performer. It's not horrible. It's good. But the F5 is great at performance. So the F5 with the easy victory here. It just destroyed the A54 in general everyday application performance. So let's take a look at the RAM management. The A54 has historically not done great here. I find it to reload every time I've done this test. Let's see with the latest update if it's improved. And you can see had that pretty good. Looks like we're getting a full reload here on Temple Run. Subway Surfers with a full reload. Now this is just disappointing because reloading again already. We haven't even been a few applications in. This is ridiculous. 6 gigs of RAM and we can only reload like 4 apps or have 4 apps held. See this? Now here's why I say this is annoying. And again, I still like the phone. Don't get me wrong. I purchased it. Samsung didn't send this phone. I purchased it. So I'm a customer just like you, giving you my take on this phone. So that's why. But here's what I wanted to say. So let's say you're out and about, right? You're in the drive-thru of Starbucks, right? You're trying to get your coffee or whatever. But, the line was long. You was messing around on Instagram, waiting for these people to get their coffee in front of you. You go over here to Starbucks and right there it didn't do it. But, you had some other applications open and it's just dragging open because it didn't have it in the background. This stuff gets irritating. And that's why I like to mention the RAM management. Let's take a look at the Xiaomi Poco F5 and see how this one does. You can see already, I don't know if you can see this on camera, but just the animation speed, the fluidity. Now Asphalt is reloading there on the left. Temple Run held, you see that? Subway Surfers held where it was, whereas it reloaded on there. Dead Trigger held in Mission. Instagram held, eBay held. We're going to Starbucks quickly, you seen that? Best Buy looks like it's reloading that homepage. Actually, it kind of loaded where it was. See, now this one is not perfect either. We're at 12 gigs of RAM here. But it's definitely far better than that phone over there. So I hope Samsung's taking notes here. Just bring this here. This is kind of like what the S23s perform like. Put the 7 Plus Gen 2 in the A54 and we'll talk business next time. But so far, it's another win to the Poco F5 in the RAM management. Now we're going to run Geekbench here. I want to show you this has 8 cores, one clocked at 2 gigahertz, the second clocked at 2.4 gigahertz. We'll run that benchmark. Now this one has 3 clusters. It does have one with 4 cores, 1.8 gigahertz, 3 cores at 2.5, and 1 at 2.92. Both on the Android 13 software, MIUI 14 on the right, One UI 5.1 on the left. I will be back when they are done with their synthetic benchmarks and we'll see how they stack up in the scores. So do you remember when I was showing you the clusters of CPU, you seen that I started the Geekbench 6 on the A54 ahead of time. And then I started this one later and we still win. 1643 on the single, 4335 on the multi, and we're waiting on the A54. Just showing you how much more fast or how much faster the Poco F5 Pro or F5 is over the A54. It's incredibly a lot here. It's just a ton. So we'll wait again. We're at 63%. We'll wait again. and I'll be back when they're done. And the final scores are finally in for the Galaxy A54. You can see 984. So not quite double on the Poco F5, but 2555 on its multi-core. Now, the Poco F5 and the A54, we're going to run a extreme wildlife extreme test here. So I'll be back when they're done. This is just going to test the frame rates, the graphical performance, stuff like that, and we'll see what kind of scores they can garner here. So I'll be back when they are done. All right, so the final wildlife extreme scores are in, and you can see the Galaxy A54, 807 final score with an average frame rate of a paltry 4.80, not great. So going down here, this score is better than only 14% of all other devices. Now, don't get me wrong, the Poco F5 is no standout star here either. You'll find higher scores on some other phones out there for sure. But definitely, we're getting a 1950 on the overall score and 11.70, so more than double here on this area. And this score is better than 49% of other devices. So not quite top tier, but pretty darn good. And yeah, so the average frame rate on here was 9 FPS to 14. And this one topped out at 6 FPS. All this means is that graphically, if you start playing some high-end stuff, the A54 is going to struggle. You'll probably notice it's not the best, unless the game is very well optimized and it's a lighter game. Whereas this one would probably be able to handle the more high-end stuff with a chopped frame here and there, but it would probably be pretty darn nice to play. So at the end of the day, clearly the F5 is the winner. And again, I didn't make this video to bash on the A54, even though that's what it sounded like I was doing the whole video. What I made this video to do is to show you that for this price range, the A54 is not giving you the fastest CPU. It's giving you a nice design, a nice triple camera setup, great battery life, the great Galaxy ecosystem, which is arguably much nicer than the Poco F5 version of MIUI, but some people would disagree. But performance-wise, speed test-wise, the Poco F5 is the champ easily here. So if you want to see any more speed tests with the Poco F5, let me know what you want to see, and stay tuned to the More Nick Ackerman channel. Go subscribe to that one. I will be covering the Poco F5 review soon there, so be subscribed to that channel. Thumbs up if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you haven't already to this channel, and I'll catch you all in the very next episode. Nick here, and peace.